Hello there everyone, and welcome back to the mini album workshop. Okay, so in the previous video I talked about the considerations for the closure. Now, because we're getting down to the nitty-gritty, there's an awful lot of thinking time that you need to sort of put in. There's that little bit of thought process, okay? So, as I said in the previous video, you need to think about how you want to do your closure. Whether you want it to be elastic, whether you want it to be seam binding, whether you want it to tie up on the side if you're using seam binding, if you are going to use a hitch post. All those sorts of things you need to sort of have a little bit of a think about. Now then, on top of that, you also need to think about how you're going to finish the album off. Yeah, I know, lots to think about, but once you actually get into it, it's not quite as difficult as it sounds. Okay, so yesterday I talked to you about the elastic version of this and the sort of thought processes that you need to go through with this. So obviously you will need an insert to be able to know how long this piece of elastic is going to be. Now, I don't actually have one for this album, so I'm going to insert my Bloom one that I've been working on with you so that I can get a rough idea of how fat it's going to be. Now, again, if you haven't got an insert, you could just insert a book in there, a shallow book, to give you some idea as to how deep this is going to end up being. All right, just going to move that out of the way for a minute. So what I actually said was that you need to punch your hole and put your elastic in before we think about covering the inside of it. And so, as you can see, I've already made a start here. So I use my crocodile and move those charms out of the way. I use my crocodile and I put an eyelet in, and the eyelets that I used for the crocodile were these. So I used the We Are Memory Keepers wide eyelets. So I've inserted my eyelet, I've inserted my elastic, and I've glued it down and also put some tape over it. At this point, I would need to put any charms or beads on it that I want to have on. Now, I'm creating my mum. It's her 80th birthday in June of this year, and she always wanted to go and see the blossom over in Japan. My brother was hoping that we would be able to get there, but it doesn't look as though we are. So I'm still going to create her an album related to Japan and the blossoms. So I've got a paper pad with Chinesey, Japanesey things on it. And so what I've done is I've put my front cover on, just a single sheet that I've cut, and I've cut it smaller than the actual surface area of the front cover so that I've got a black border all the way around it. And I've inked the edges up in black, and I've also done the same on the back so then I could put my eyelet in. All right, so your first consideration if you're going to use this technique with the elastic is you need to put more so the back cover than the front, but you need your back cover on because the eyelet will be showing through on this paper on the back. And then I've put these charms on just for now. I might not use these because, as you can see, they keep moving about, so I might have to glue them together if I decide to use these. But yeah, so those would be my charms. All right, and then I would wrap this round with my insert in so that I can work out how long the elastic needs to be, and then I'm going to pull it round, and then I'm going to pull on it just slightly to pull on the elastic to make it that little bit tighter. Now, don't pull on it loads, so let me just show you. So I'm going to pull on it slightly, okay? Don't pull on it loads, because that is putting too much tension on the elastic and it will start to dig into your album. But you don't want it slack either, so you don't want it doing that. All right, so you need that little bit of tension on it, and then I would wrap that round the back and then insert this end through that hole. And make sure that the tension's correct. So as you can see at the moment it's still too slack, so I'm going to pull on it a little to just pull it in, and then just tug on it slightly. So I've got it nice and straight, and I'm just going to tug on it slightly. Alright, and I'm going to hold it there, so I'm actually pinching it against that back cover because I know that the tension's right. And then I'm going to pull, let me just fiddle about a bit more, and then I'm going to pull this off. I'm going to move that out the way for now. Here, more fingers and thumbs. There we go. So I know that where I've got it now is about the right tension. All right, I'm going to pull it in just a touch more, just to be on the safe side in case it moved. And then I would put some glue down here, stick that down, and then put some tape on the top, and then that would be held in place. Now I'm not going to do it just yet because I haven't made my inserts, so I need to make sure that it's the right depth, but that's what I would do. So imagine that that's what I've done. Okay, and then obviously then I would trim off the excess. I then need to cover this inside piece. Now when we originally did the covers, excuse me, I would have used a sheet of A3 card and just covered the whole lot. But if you haven't got that and you've only got A4, then you would need to do the same on the inside as you did on the outside, in terms of you would need one sheet of A4 for this area and one sheet of A4 for this area. Now previously when we did the front cover, we curled the card from the front round to the inside. This time we're going to cut it to actual size, so we're going to cut it so that it's just 1/8 of an inch smaller than this area. All right, so 1/8 of an inch smaller all the way around, and then you would lay your first piece down and finish it here in the center. You would then cut another piece from the center for this side. Don't know why I'm holding on to that so tightly. Excuse me. And put plenty of glue on so that when you stick it down, you can just run your bone folder down that crease very lightly, because again it will crack if you press it too hard. If you try and push it inside of that gap, it will just crack. So just a light creasing to sort of teach the paper that it's going to fold at that point. The other thing that I would also do as well is I would use my construction tape again. So the same as I did on the spine here, I would put my construction tape 1, 2 and even a third one down that center. All right, so that that spine and the paper there is supported. All right, so imagine that now covered in card, in black card. This will be covered over. Yes, there will be a slight bump in the card because of the thickness of the elastic that you've used. You can't avoid that. There is nothing you can do about that. Not even if you bash it with a hammer, it's not going to flatten it out. All right, so we've now covered the inside, our closure's in place, and then we will then stick this onto here. So that's the front. Excuse me, sorry, my chest isn't so good today. So that's the front, this is the back. I would place glue all over that back and then sit it on top of that back part of the cover. This edge here doesn't want to be butt up with that line, but it wants to be close to the line. And it's easier to show you whilst the black card isn't there. So it would need to be that sort of distance away from the spine itself. Okay, so we're talking 1/16 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of this part, the back cover. That's where it needs to be, so that this spine can sit up when you lift it up against the edge of the spine of the pages that we've made. Okay, and then that would then flop over the top. Okay, and then that part of it is then complete. All right, now then, the next bit. Let me just take that out again. If I go to the journal that I'm making, or the album I should say that I'm making, so as we know, just take all these bits apart. I made mine purely from my cardstock. So I cut out one single piece, I attached a centre spine bit on the inside, I attached a centre spine bit on the outside, and I attached 2 pieces of card on the outside covers as well. Okay, now on the inside I have some more card that I'm going to add to the inside. Okay, so that's going to sit in there. Okay, I'm going to use the same technique as I used on this one, which is the hitch post and the eyelet on the back, and then use the seam binding, because I know that my tabs sit well enough inside the cover. What I need to think about is that this side is going to have an eyelet on it. So I'm going to need that piece of card in place. This side, which will be the front part of the cover, I'm going to have the hitch post on. So I actually want to attach the hitch post before I attach this inside cover bit. So I'm going to put that to one side, but I'm going to attach this one. Now I've inked it up already, and I'm going to use my Tombow glue because it's nice and strong. Oh, can't see where I'm gluing. Green on green. Now the reason why I'm adding this green card on the back is that I want to give the cover as much support and strength as I can give it. So I don't mind keep adding bits of card on top as is necessary. Okay, so this is my back cover, and that for me is going on top there. Now I've got a tiny bit of a border here and a bigger border here, that's fine. Okay, now then I'm going to add the eyelet on this side, so it's going to be showing on here. So I need to put my decorative papers on the front here before I can attach the eyelet. Now what I've decided is that I'm going to use this patterned paper on the front and on the back. When I cut the front piece, it's the right size, but it did mean it left me a tiny bit short on the width for the back side. So if I sit that on there, so you can see I've got a slight gap here, but I'm not worrying about that because there are enough borders within the kit that I can add the border on there. But I need this paper on here before I can put the eyelet in. So I need to ink the edges up. because I don't want that white edge showing. And this may be a video that you might need to watch a couple of times for you to sort of grasp what it is that I've been doing. You might not. You might just get it straight away. But you can also be making notes as well, which you can refer to. Just close that up. Okay, so that's my back cover. I need to make sure I've got that the right way around. That's going that way around, and I'm going to flush it up to this edge here. Doesn't matter about the gap because I'm putting the border on. Okay, glue. Again, I'm just going to use my Tombow because I want to make sure that it's got a nice strong contact. Flip that over. Yes, it's the right way up, and that will sit. Oh, come on, play nicely. There we go. Okay, so that's my back cover now in place. Now then, if I show you the previous one that I did, and we'll go to the back. The album part itself also needs to be attached, because if it isn't, then the eyelet is actually going to sit underneath that back page, and we want it sitting on top. So I've now got to attach my actual journal part itself, or the album part. So if I bring this back, I'm going to open it up, and I'm now going to attach my album to the inside. So that's the album that I made, that's the back, and I'm going to attach that to this. Now I'm going to put the same consideration into it as I've just done with the black one, in that the edge of this spine here needs to be close to the edge of the spine itself, not butt up to, but right next to. So I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to just make sure I have got it the right way up. Better just check, hadn't I? Yes, that's the top. Okay. Going to be nothing worse than me gluing this and then finding I've stuck it in upside down. Oh, wobbly hand. I'm not putting it right close to the edge because I don't want the glue seeping out, because I find that this glue in particular doesn't peel off particularly well if it seeps beyond where it's supposed to be. Okay, so I'm going to flip it over, and that is now going to be right there. And let's just check top and bottom. Yeah, apply a little bit of pressure. Okay, open it up to the back page. Just make sure it's got good contact. Okay, now then, because I've cut my cover much bigger to accommodate for the tabs, I've actually now got a gap between the edge of the cover and the edge of the page that I've just glued in. See if I can show you with my contraption in place as well. So I don't know whether you can see that, but that's the edge of the page there, and that's the edge of the cover. So I've actually got a gap there. Now if your page is butt up against the edge of the cover, then you would need to punch your hole through all those layers. So let's just say that my eyelet is going to sit here, so I would need to punch through all those layers. Now for me, I've got my flippy flappy page on here, so I would actually have to move that out of the way, so then I could punch my eyelet hole through the page itself, not the decorative bit. So through the page and through the back cover. But because I've got this gap, I can actually put it within that space there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my crocodile, and let's just guess where we're going to put it, Carol. So I want it about halfway down, and yeah, about there. Now I want it a little way in because of the lip, and I'm going to move that out of the way just in case. Okay, so I've now got my hole. So I would now attach my eyelet here, so then I can easily attach my ribbons to this part of the page here, okay, to this part of the cover. Now with the front, I'm not going to do that because it's just time consuming. So with the front, as I said, I'm going to use the hitch post, but I need to think about the decoration on the front but nothing on the inside. So I've got to get my decoration on the front, and what I've decided, so you'll need to go through the thought process of what you want on the front, is I'm going to put this single sheet on, and what I'm thinking of doing is I'll put a border on here the same as I'm doing on the back, and then I'm using one of the journaling cards and I'm going to have that on the front, and then I'll put flowers, some dimensional flowers on the front of there as well. I may even stick this to a piece of plain green card so that it forms a frame to separate it more from this background. So that's what I think I'm going to do. So I need to put my papers on that are going to be in this area here where the hitch post is going to go. So I've nothing else that's going to go on there apart from this, which isn't going to get in the way of the hitch post. So all I need on is my front cover. So I'm going to glue that in place. Oh, I didn't ink my edge up. Oh, well, not a crime. And then that will then go, make sure it's all the right way around. That's up, that's up. That will sit on there. And then I need to gauge where the hole is on the back and make sure that I do it in round about the same area on the front, which is going to be round about there. I want it a little way in, I don't want it right on the very edge again. Oh look, I've done that and I can't see what I've done. So about there, Carol. So it's half, well, it's at the bottom edge of that flower. And about there. And I can pop my screw through there and then attach my hitch post there. And then I can tighten that screw up with a screwdriver, and then the spare piece of card then I will then stick onto there so it then covers over that screw and I can no longer see it. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that for now. There is going to be another video to just talk about finishing off the covers, and then I'm going to do another video which will talk about some of the elements that you put inside the decorative ephemera bits, if you like, and just finishing off the cover itself in terms of its decoration and the spine and stuff. Okay, I hope that that was as clear as mud. Oh dear. Any questions, as per usual, just ask on group, and I'll see what I can do to help. Okay, speak to you soon. Bye for now.